What's up, everybody? Welcome back to the newest edition of Nerd Kitchen, and today we're cooking up a triple threat. So we're talking about AV, EDR, and patch management all in one fantastic 10-minute show. So we got to jump right in. We got a lot to cover here. And quite honestly, I'm not even going to go through an intro here. We got three topics. We're just going to start with patch management. I think a lot of this stuff, anybody watching this type of nerdy program is going to have some familiarity with. But patch management is worth mentioning because it's coming up so often right now with compliancy and with just corporate reviews of IT and things like that. All patch management means is that you have some sort of central repository that's handling pushing down updates to your computers. Now, that's pretty standard. What we really want to just make sure that you're aware of on our side when we're having this conversation is not all patch management solutions are created equal. So in our situation, we always like a platform agnostic patch management solution. And what that means is we don't want Windows running the patches for your network. We don't want a server out there with a Windows Update repository just running Windows updates, because now you're ignoring Adobe, you're ignoring Java, you're ignoring 1,000 other programs that may be approved to run on your networks that are not going to be covered by Microsoft. So what we like to implement and what we recommend to anyone watching this that you implement is some sort of service that is managed, that is going to be looking at multiple different programs and allowing approval or deny of patches based on everything that's installed in your network, not just your operating system. Obviously, operating systems are probably the most key, but you want to make sure everything's updated so you don't have any vulnerabilities floating around on your PCs or on your servers. Now, you'll notice on the screen I'm sharing here, this is a test account that we set up here that's just got a whole bunch of computers that were thrown in. So as you can see, this is something that we use on a daily, hourly, sometimes minutely basis, if minutely is even a word. And a lot of the basic information that you're going to need from a management standpoint is going to be found right here in this platform. Now, this platform, we could do a whole other show, and I'm not going to get into that. But what you're really looking for here is the ability, and I don't know, I'm just picking up, that's a Mac. Let's not do a Mac. Let's go ahead and just pick this random computer here. You've got a bunch of tabs down here. We're just going to go down to patches. You have the ability to approve or deny. And you'll see there's multiple different products here. You've got this one, Windows 11. You've got WinRAR. You've got CCleaner, which I don't know why that's even running Chrome. So even browsers need to be patched, and that should be part of your strategy. So you want to make sure that you're always covering your patches in a uniform and centralized manner so that you can group your computers depending on the size of your network, and you can push down patches or block patches, which is also extremely important. There are times, and anybody that's been doing this long enough knows, where a patch can absolutely ruin a computer. So shut that thing down, block it from all other computers once you realize it's an issue on your network. So you need that type of granular control over your management of patches. Second thing we're going to talk about today, antivirus. Now, I mean, AV is what I had said in the beginning. AV stands for antivirus. And if you don't know what antivirus is, I mean, you should definitely be using a technology provider. No offense, but I mean, AV's been around since I was a kid. So the big thing to know about AV is that it's, by its very nature, very reactionary. So here's how the basic AV works. Like McAfee, Norton, any of those guys you've probably heard of. A computer reports an issue. It's got something that doesn't seem right. The issue is analyzed, isolated, and then a solution is crafted. Now, the solutions are usually called in our industry definitions. That definition is then added to the list of threats that all the computers on the platform will then download at their next download cycle. And then at the next time they run a scan, if it finds that definition, that threat on that computer, it will look to do remediation. The problem with this is that is a slow process, and time is your greatest enemy in an infection situation. So the longer an infection is allowed to fester, the worse the resolution is going to be, and the more damage that can happen during the infection period. So we got to speed that up, and there's not really a way, even if you're updating every hour and you're running scans every hour and you're doing things as quickly as you can do it, at a certain point there's a cost-benefit ratio that comes into play where now you're hogging up all your CPU processing power, constantly running scans and updates, and you're not really gaining a lot. You still have a lot of time in between when a threat is identified and when it is cured. The other problem is that the different platforms, they don't talk to each other. McAfee is not out there helping out Norton. Wink, wink, nod, nod. They don't really like each other, as far as I know. Bitdefender's not helping out, Windows Defender. So they all are running their own definition lists. And at the end of the day, even though a virus may be isolated, the definition may exist and it may be out there, it may not be for your product. So antivirus is good, gotta have it, but I think we've evolved a little bit past that. And that's where the third thing we're talking about today comes into play, and that is EDR. And I'm going to bounce. And just to get back over to the screen share, which I had left up, so you're welcome, you will see that antivirus is in here. It's a part of it. It's going to show scans. So this is another thing. You want it centrally managed. You want it centrally located so that you can have people who are responsible that can identify and respond to threats in real time. The last part, I'm just going to leave the screen share up here, is EDR. Now, EDR stands for Endpoint Detection and Response. There's also a managed endpoint detection and response, which is just that somebody is responsible, like someone like us. They tend to go hand in hand. The real thing is the actual solution itself. It's kind of like AV in a way, in the sense that it does have a virus component to it, but there is a huge difference. And that difference is that EDR uses an AI-based heuristic algorithms. That's super nerd speak, I get it, and sometimes I love throwing that stuff out there, but what that really means is that it's not looking at files and folders and definitions, it's looking at behavior. So how is your computer reacting? Is it doing things that are consistent with an infected computer? We don't care if there's an actual infection that we know where it lives and we found it. We care that your computer's acting weird and doing things it shouldn't do. I don't know, a good example of that might be a computer on your network starts encrypting files. All right, that's entirely possible that the user is running an encryption program to secure their hard drive, and they're doing it intentionally. It is also possible that that user has gotten ransomware, and those files are going to be irretrievable without paying a ransom or recovering from backup. So in an AV environment, it could be hours or even days before you know. And at that point, you're in the thick of it. In an EDR situation, it's going to identify that behavior. It's going to notify responsible parties. It's going to notify the person who is at that terminal and at that computer. And depending on what policies you've set and how you have it configured, it might just straight up block it and not allow it to happen until it's been approved by whoever is the responsible party for approval. It might do all three. It might notify and block. Or if you know that encryption is going to be happening, it might allow it, but only for a certain time frame. You're going to encrypt your hard drive, great. Do it on Tuesday. We'll allow encryption on Tuesday, and then we're shutting that down. So it gives you a lot of granular control. I know I said that before, but it gives you a lot of control over how these things work. It also takes away that time component. So if you're not waiting for the identification, isolation, resolution, download, scan, you're not waiting for all of those steps. If you're just looking at behavior, you go from hours, days, weeks, down to seconds or minutes because you're just looking at behavior, and then you can figure it out after the fact and approve it. But the amount of money and loss of productivity and everything else that can be achieved by switching EDR is almost incalculable. We don't actually offer straight AV anymore. We only do EDR, and part of that is compliancy is requiring it in a lot of situations, but part of it too is it's just a better product. And if you look at our screen here that we've got up, you'll notice we put a little sample group up here, and we'll just pick this one here. There's a lot more to it, though, than just the AV component. So in here, you'll notice that we've got all the information on this computer, including all the apps that are installed. And so you've got a good deep look at what's going on in that computer, and then you can go in and start setting your policies. So you can jump in and you can create policies on just about anything you want. You can determine individual behaviors that you want to look for, things that you're concerned about, and you can tell it exactly how to respond to those, who to notify, and what actions to take before it can get a hold of somebody that can definitively, isolate and deal with the problem. You also can assign blacklists, things that definitely are not allowed to happen, or exclusions. So a lot of these get pushed down from the platform level, where you see consistent exclusions or consistent blacklists, things that are always blocked by other people that are in your type of industry, and they just kind of pre-populate. You can pull them out, you can shut them down, you can add more. Network control, you can set network policies. We don't have any here in our test account, but where you can communicate to, how you can communicate. It's kind of like a firewall built into your AV solution. But you can now get really, really specific on groups of computers. There may be no reason for this group of computers over here to ever go out to the internet. Maybe they're a group of kiosks that are designed for customer access, or maybe they're just cash registers at a retail outlet that shouldn't be going out on the internet. You can assign that stuff from here. You can even do hardware controls. So, and here we've just got an example under device control. You know, I want to block all USB devices from being able to be plugged into any computer in this group. So this is huge from, let's say, a HIPAA compliancy standpoint, where HIPAA specifically requires that you lock down external device access. Here, you just put the computers that are in the HIPAA affected area into a group, assign that policy, and bang, just like that, you've isolated that problem, and you've solved that compliancy request. There is a tremendous amount of power in a product like this, and at this point of where we're at from a cybersecurity standpoint, if you haven't had this conversation yet, you should be. And if your partner, your IT partner, is not having this conversation, they should be. I'm not selling anything here. I'm just trying to inform people of how important this type of product is becoming. EDR, AV, and patch management are just becoming super critical, and it doesn't seem to matter anymore whether you have 5, 50, 500 computers on your network. The importance of these types of solutions altogether is critical, and it has to happen for almost everyone. If you're not sure if you have these, contact your IT partner or your managed service provider and ask them. And if they're not sure if you have these, it might be time to shop for a new IT provider or managed service provider. So that's it. Hope this was informative. I appreciate everybody sticking around to the end, and we'll come back with some great new stuff next week. Thanks, everyone. Have a great night.